The Geek Speak Show Volume 2 is produced and distributed by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC.
Are you crazy? Is that your problem?
We all have issues. Geek Culture has issues too. Not just comic book issues. Real issues that need to get out in the open and be discussed. That's what you're about to hear. The Geek Speak Show, Volume 2, presents Issues of the Day. Here's Henry San Miguel.
Here I am. Surprise. I know last week sounded like an Issues of the Day episode, but it wasn't. I told you that was going to be just for one segment, long segment, but it was just for one segment. But this is this month's Issues of the Day. And of course, I'm here. Hello. But no Sean Clan for this one. He's on location, actually. Can't tell you what, but he's filming something that you're all going to be able to watch on TV soon. I'll put it that way. Or you might be able to stream it too. Or both, I think. But I can't do this by myself. I could. I just don't want to. I'm not doing this by myself. I have not, how does Trent Tucker put it? Not Trent Tucker. I have the fun one, as Trent says. Marc Pope from Geek Off the Streets. Hey, Mark.
Hello, everybody. I say the handsome one myself. I think I said that before, and it just got weird for everybody.
Yeah,
but,
no, I was thinking that, but I said, I'm going to let him say that, because if I say it, then it gets weird. And
yeah, it's going to be awkward.
Yeah, so glad you
Yes.
said that. But yes,
Right.
I almost said the handsome one, but no, the fun one. Marc Pope is here from Geek Off the Street. No Trent today either, so, as Trent would also say, the old guys are doing it today, which means
It's funny.
it'll be a fun
it's
show.
true.
It'll be a good show. That's what it means.
You have some knowledge for you kids.
Yes, but hopefully this isn't going to turn into a get off my lawn kind of episode. No
Right.
promises on that. Actually, yeah, I can't promise you that because Trent's not here. He's usually the get off my lawn guy, not us. But we are going to do something a little bit different on this episode, and that is we're actually going to have an interview, not with us two, but we're actually going to talk to a guest, pretty interesting guest. You'll see what that is in just a minute. As the saying goes, variety is a spice of life, and so I figured, you know what, let's change it up a little bit. Why not? It's just Mark and me. Why not? But that'll be in a few minutes. Let me get started with an issue that I actually couldn't wait to have you on. Not Trent really, because he said that he knows Star Trek, but he doesn't know it the way you and I do. Sean Clan doesn't know Star Trek because he's never watched it. But it was a story that he talked about on last week's his Navajo Nerdy News feature. It was the last news story that he talked about, and that was I think it was a week or a couple weeks ago now. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 is about to kick off in July 17th on Paramount Plus. They had a premiere for it in New York, and the executive, the showrunners, Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonzo Myers, they were doing interviews afterwards, and somebody asked them, because in case you didn't know, Strange New Worlds has been greenlit for a 5th and final season, so it will have a 5-year mission. See why they did 5 years. But the 5th season will be the final season, and they asked them. Somebody asked them, okay, so when Strange New Worlds is over, what's next? What do you guys have any plans? And they said, now when I say this, if you haven't heard it, don't get crazy because Paramount has not given the green light. It's just what they want. They said, we have this executive producer team, the behind the scenes team, the writers, some of the actors can cross over. What they would like to do, if Paramount says yes, they would love to reimagine the original series, basically reboot it when Strange New Worlds ends. And I went crazy when Sean Clan mentioned it last week. But I can kind of, now that I've calmed down a little bit, I can see why they say that, because Strange New Worlds, yes, it does. It should butt up against the Kirk's 5-year mission. And this is kind of setting up a lot of the things that we're supposed to see in the original series anyway. So I can see why. But, and I said this when, what was JJ's second one? Into Darkness. When Into Darkness came out, that was just the remake of Wrath of Khan. You don't touch Wrath of Khan. You don't touch Empire Strikes Back. You don't touch The God. There are certain movies you don't need to touch. There are certain TV shows you don't need to touch. The original series is one of them. I've said my piece, but Mark, like I said, you know Star Trek, so I couldn't wait to ask you, what's your reaction to that, rebooting the original series?
Yeah, you know what? I don't have an issue so much with. Well, I don't know. Maybe I do, but there's so much of like rebooting and everything else that's going on in Hollywood right now. It's everywhere. It's been going on for years. Bluntly, I'm not a big fan of them rebooting the original series, only because from everything that I've seen, and in full disclosure, I have not seen a whole lot of the new Star Wars stuff. I've heard some of it is good. I've heard
Star
some
Trek.
of it is I said Star Wars. Yeah, Star Trek. Some of it is good. Some of it is good in moments. But I haven't heard anything overall that is very positive for it overall. So I just don't want to see the original series turned into like some sort of action adventure type of story. Star Trek at its base in the beginning with the original series, The Next Generation, even even with Voyager and Deep Space Nine, there's always been an element of, it's always been about humanity has finally kind of gotten its act together, and now we're going out and we're exploring and we're learning and we're trying to make things better for ourselves and even others, as in a respectful manner, talking about the whole Prime Directive. They try not to interfere with people's lives. So I don't want to see that kind of spirit kind of turned upside down or tainted in any kind of way, because that's not what Star Trek is about. There's plenty of science fiction shows out there that you can watch that are going to be action, that might even have some sort of like a philosophical elements to it. But I just don't want to see that happen with Star Trek. And that, I feel like that's how it's been going for the last like 10 years or so. And that's not what it's about. That's not what it should be about. It should be something that inspires humanity. And maybe there's not supposed to be mass appeal to it. Maybe it's not supposed to be something that everybody gravitates to, that everybody wants to see. Star Trek has always had a very niche audience, people that are really into not even science fiction, but into like space exploration, into science, into learning. So I'm not a big fan of the concept. Just because I've seen what the people are doing nowadays, I don't think they're capable of making a new Star Trek show and paying it the proper respect.
Well, like you said, you haven't seen all the new Star Trek stuff. I have, and you've heard me say Strange New Worlds is actually good Star Trek, but I will say even that is not the best new Star Trek. I mean, it's passable, it's decent, but it's not the best. You hadn't seen this either. You watched an episode of, I think one of the times you were here, the Orville. I've always told you guys about that one.
Right.
That one, a lot of Star Trek fans agree. The Orville is like another Star Trek spin-off show. It has nothing to do with Star Trek, obviously, but the stories, the messaging behind it was very, very modern, yes, but also gave you lessons like Star Trek did, the original series did. So that one did more than the new Star Trek did. I think that's why Strange New Worlds is the way it is, because it learned from the Orville and said, okay, well, we should be the ones doing this. Now it is still shiny. They haven't really established, are we in the Kelvinverse? Because it looks like the JJ universe. It's that shiny. The Enterprise doesn't look like JJ's Enterprise, but it could be. The bridge is nice and shiny. But you do care about the characters. I mean, some of them we know. Uhura's there. She's a young Uhura. She's there. Spock is there. It's not Captain Kirk, although he is there now. So is Scotty. They're not the chief engineers. They have different engineers, but they're there. Dr. McCoy is not there, whereas we, the fans that watch Strange New Worlds, we're assuming they're going to introduce him in season 3. So, like I said, a lot of the things are being set up. So, I don't know if he knows something and he's just saying it, or preparing us. We are going to reboot it or not. Now, Trent calls you the fun one, I think he really means the nice one. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I mean anyway. I think what you're trying to say is you don't want to see it bastardized. Don't bastardize the original series, because honestly, if you really look at things, that's what's been happening. Not just with Star Wars, but with Lord of the Rings, any property that's been around for decades, and we have brand new writers. That's one. As I get older, that's a problem that I have with people that take over things like, I'll say our things because we're older here, but like take over Star Trek, take over Star Wars, take over Lord of the Rings and Narnia now. All these different universes that we know and love, and modern writers put their spin on it. It's not because they don't know, but they didn't live, they didn't experience the world the way you and I did. It's a completely different world, for someone like Trent, someone like Sean Clan, who's younger. They experienced the world differently than we did. We didn't have like social media and all that stuff. We found ways to entertain ourselves. We found ways to educate ourselves other than just watching YouTube videos or TikTok videos or any of that stuff. A lot of the things that a lot of people care about today, politically, socially, we were aware of them, but they weren't really an issue because life was good. Life was good back then, so we didn't really have to worry about those things. And a lot of the movies, if you go back and watch them, they don't talk about that stuff because they knew that's not what society wanted to hear about. Today, and we four, when we're all four together, and I know you guys have talked about it when you guys talk about like you talked about it on The Last of Us and some other movies. That's audiences are getting tired of that. They're getting tired of constantly being hammered over the head with, this is bad, this is good, this is evil, this is that. They're getting tired of that. Woke is the word we talked about once it gets thrown around. Nobody wants to say it. You didn't say it. I didn't say it. But I think we're thinking, if they do redo this, is it going to be Star woke? That's kind of the fear, that it's going to go too much. So I mean, they're not going to listen to us. Obviously, they don't care. We're not the target audience anymore. So, but here's our vote. No. I mean, I think you're saying no. You don't want to see it. A reboot?
Yeah, I'm definitely saying no. Like I said, I haven't seen anybody, nothing that proves to me that they understand the spirit of Star Trek. So no.
Now, see this. We're going to talk to a guest in a second. Now I'm thinking, because of the story, I think I should have texted Rod Roddenberry, going by Eugene now, Gene Roddenberry's son. He's been here many, many times in the past. I'm sure he would definitely have something to say about this because he's now an executive producer for everything Star Trek. So I'll say this. I'll get him on a future, very future Geek Speak episode, and we'll talk about that. Yes, Mark, you're welcome to join us on that one if you want.
Sweet.
I don't think you guys have met Rod, have you ever?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, you'll love him. He's a lot of fun.
That's cool.
So there's the first one. I have a couple more things to bring up, maybe one more thing. But first, when you hear us next, we're going to talk about music, specifically film music. Don't go anywhere.
Issues of the day will return in just a few moments.
In case you missed it, the Geek Speak Expo has been rescheduled to the fall of 2026. That means that the search for speakers and panelists is once again on. If you have an idea for a panel, you now have an opportunity to pitch it to us to be included next year. The Geek Speak Expo is an all-ages event, so keep it all ages appropriate. You know what that means. If you have to ask if something is appropriate, let me answer it right here. No, it isn't. We are hoping to feature panels highlighting independent films and filmmakers, books including comics and graphic novels, cosplay, gaming, video, RPG, and card games, and anything else that would interest a geek audience. Visit thegeekspeakshow.com for more info and to submit a panel for next year's Geek Speak Expo.
You wanted to be cool, which led you to smoking, which led to a pack a day. Then you met that special someone, which led to starting a life with them, which led to wanting to live longer, which led to quitting. Then you heard you may be at risk for lung cancer, which led you to getting a low-dose CT scan. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Now back to the issues of the day.
And we're back, and for this segment, issues, the word issues does take on the usual meaning. Comic book issues was probably the first thing that came to your mind, but I'm talking about magazine issues, specifically Film Score Monthly magazine issues. In celebration of its 35th anniversary, Film Score Monthly is currently running the Kickstarter campaign to fund something new and, I think, pretty unique. On to talk about it is Film Score Monthly's Lukas Kendall. Lukas is a screenwriter, he's a producer, was a blogger, sci-fi fan, and film music aficionado, and one of us, in other words. And it was that love of film scores that drove him to create a fanzine while in high school, which became Film Score Monthly. Welcome, Lukas. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Lukas, what's going on, sir? Nice to meet you. First off, my name is Mark. I have a podcast myself with a friend of mine called Geek Off the Street. I'm kind of a special guest host here today with Henry. So Henry, thank you for that very much. But one of the first questions I wanted to ask, because I know we were talking a little bit earlier, but we are all basically, the three of us, we're all around the same age. Like technically, I think I'm older than you, but we're all around the same age. But, you know, we all love like comic books and all the sci-fi stuff. But I don't think we had any sort of inclination to create a fanzine in high school, of all things. Like, how did you come up with that? What made you want to create one out of high school?
Well, I was lonely. I really was lonely. I'm from Martha's Vineyard, which is a very special place to be from, and I feel very lucky about that. But especially back then in the 80s, in Martha's Vineyard in winter was just a very cold, very isolated New England town. And I love Star Trek, I love Star Wars, and I love the music. And I would watch my favorite movies like a lot of us and think like, wow, this RoboCop's a great movie, but I love the RoboCop theme. Who wrote that? Who is Basil Polidorus? Where can I get it? And this is before the internet. This is before IMDb. This is before any of this stuff. And there was like, nobody knew at all. So I was bored, I was lonely, and I was fascinated by this music that I had so much passion for. And so I just started a fanzine. I would buy Starlog and Cinefantastique like a lot of us, and I'd see the letter pages and the classified ads, and I'd send away for mail order catalogs, and I'd read other fanzines. And it seemed like there was a fanzine for everything except for movie music. So I wrote a letter to the editor to Starlog in 1990, and it said at the end, anyone who want to start a fan club about movie soundtracks, write me. And like 10 people did. And I thought, well, this will be cool. I'll start like a little pen pal community. And then more people wrote me, and I started doing like a monthly newsletter to these people who wrote me. This is really pre-internet. It was the last 3 or 4 years before Usenet and the World Wide Web started. So you had to do it this way with stamps and mimeographs and all that. So that's the story.
Yes, we're that old, by the way.
Yeah, I'm super impressed that you just had just the guts to do it, I suppose. You know what I mean? That's what really...
Well, I appreciate that. I had very encouraging parents. You know, I was very lucky. I don't know if you guys remember when Michael Giacchino won an Oscar for his music, however many years ago, and he gave his acceptance speech, and he talked about being lucky that his parents always encouraged him to be creative, and they never said it's a waste of time. They said it's great. And I was very lucky to have parents where they're like, oh, you want stamps? I'll buy you some stamps. You know, you need to use the computer. Oh yeah, you use the computer, you know. So yeah, that went a long way to it. It really did.
Wow, that's super cool. So like the first your first like listeners, or your first I shouldn't say listeners, still in podcast mode, but your first like subscribers and everything, like where did they come from? They were all just people that were started writing in, and you kind of built from there, or
yeah, there were people who saw my address in Starlog, and then after that, I learned that there was a magazine already about movie soundtracks. It was published out of Belgium, and there had been a very good magazine that was sort of inactive called Cinema Score. So there had been like a fanzine community for movie soundtracks. I just didn't know about it because how could I? It was not at the bookstore, it was not at the record store. And eventually when somebody said, hey, you should read these fanzines out of Belgium, and I did, and I wrote to that guy and I said, hey, I'm trying to do an American fanzine, and he put in a plug for me. And then I had several hundred people say, yeah, I'd like to get that. And then I really had to like figure out, okay, I've got to start asking for money because I can't afford all the stamps and the mimeograph costs. Like I did it in my high school, the teacher's lounge once or twice, and then I had to use a little print shop, and it was fun times.
Yeah. So it really started to take off even in high school. It seemed like it just.
Hey, girls, I'm publishing a magazine. Girls, it didn't work on that the way I hoped, but
I could dig it.
In a lot of ways, I was a normal kid. Like I was on the high school baseball team, but in a lot of ways I wasn't. People were like, and this was not cool. It was not cool to like Star Trek music. Like I remember my friend going, wait a minute, you listen to like da 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 da, and like laughing at me. I was like, yeah, I like that. That's great.
Right. Yeah. So do I, man.
And my friend was a nice kid, but it was not a kind world about this stuff.
Yeah. See, Luke, I'm glad you're saying that, Lucas, because my kids, they don't believe me. Because today, it's like, what do you mean people didn't like Spider-Man? Yeah, it wasn't cool to admit I read Marvel comics or I like Star Wars or all of that stuff. All the stuff that we talk about that they love, it wasn't cool.
It was like, oh, you still play with toys? Yeah. You build models? Like, why? What do you do with it? It's like, have a beer. Because I was 16, I was 17. Once in a while, I'd go to a high school party, and these kids are smoking. And I'm like, oh my God, this is gross.
Yeah, it was funny because I know we've talked about that, Henry and I, and even on like my show, we've talked about what it's like to be like that nerd amongst nerds kind of thing. Like for me, I was also huge into sci-fi, fantasy, all that kind of stuff, but I was also into anime back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's such an interesting thing because there's like your typical nerds, and then you had your uber nerds, which I think we kind of fall into that category yet, that you're into the score, you're into Japanese animation.
If you're into scores, you're pretty
I hadn't heard that one.
Wait, I have to say two things. So one thing before I forget is that the irony is I ended up meeting and interviewing Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman, Basil Polidorus, and they all chain smoked. So anyway, not Danny, but Hans did. He's quit. Basil did. He died from lung cancer. It was so sad. That's sort of neither here, nor anywhere else. But look, I loved Robotech.
Dude,
Robotech.
That is my favorite.
I would send away for videotapes of like the Robotech adjacent, and I got like a videotape of Megazone 2-3, and it has it has like cartoon boobs, and it has that tentacle thing blowing people's heads up. And I'm there with my brother. We're watching the tentacles going through people's heads. Like, dude, people have no idea what awesome stuff is out there.
Yeah, man. Megazone 2-3. Did you see there are two movies? Did you see both the movies?
I've seen all three, and the third one I was like,
respect.
See, and this is why nobody sat with us at lunch.
I
could not talk about Megazone 2-3 at lunch, but I did. I didn't have UHF TV because we lived at the bottom of a hill, and my parents refused to put an aerial on the roof. We had one in the attic. This is before cable came down my road. We got cable TV on Martha's Vineyard at the end of our dirt road in 1988, because I vividly remember which was the first clear episode of Next Generation I watched, and it was second season. So like we had to watch UHF at a friend's house, and we discovered Robotech like at grandma's house, And my brother and I like, oh my God, this is the greatest show ever. This is like, we thought Voltron was sort of cool. And Robotech was like 20 times cool as anything else we'd seen. It was so good. But we couldn't watch it, so we had to time tape it at a friend's house. And then the finale of the Mosfeta happened, and we're like, we put in this tape, like, oh my God, we finally find out how Robotech ends. And like 5 minutes in, it was technical difficulties where it's like it was just static for like 15 minutes, and then they come back and they're flying out of Reflex Point, and we're like, oh my God, we have to wait another 5 months for it to cycle through to find out what happened.
Oh my God. That breaks my heart, man.
Yeah. And then we bought bootleg videotapes. I bought them at a convention.
A lot of bootleg.
And then years later, I had this collection of bootleg Robotech tapes, and I mailed it to the guys at Harmony Gold because it turned out I had an early sound mix. This is beyond esoteric, but when Robotech first aired, they were still working on the music. So there was an initial airing of Robotech that still had a few pieces of the Japanese music because they hadn't replaced it yet. And I remembered it thinking, what the hell? So anyway, I was telling these guys at Harmony Gold once, I have a videotape of the original sound mix. And like, we can't find that. Can you send it to us? So I did.
Wow.
And then they never watched it. Because I wrote them years later. I wrote Steve Yoon or whoever that was. I said, hey, did you ever watch that? Like, no, we didn't get to it.
Oh, come on, guys. Come on, guys. But also a fantastic soundtrack. The Robotech soundtrack is phenomenal. I'm going to drop one more piece of nerd knowledge. I'm going to move on. Did you ever watch with Macross the summer of '83, the Do You Remember Love movie?
Oh yeah, I bought the videotape Clash of the Bionoids that had a half-hour
right.
And then I had to get another bootleg that had like the worst dubbing. And I when you're a kid, you don't realize this. You're like, this dubbing is atrocious. Why didn't they just get the voice actors who are so good? And you don't realize that like there are different rights and different companies.
Yeah.
But no, the Do You Remember Love is some of the best animation I've ever seen.
Fantastic. I was literally talking about that on the last episode of my show. Literally talking about how good that is. All right.
I stole from that because I made a sci-fi short film. You guys should check it out. It's called Skyfighter. It was on Dust. And we actually got a couple of million views, which is hard for a short film. And there were some like CG effects on our measly little budget that we did. Where I was like, guys, let me show you Do You Remember Love? I want you to do the explosion in outer space like this.
Man.
It's just a flash, and then like those guys were so good. I don't know. I'm hijacking your whole 20-minute segment.
Yeah, I know.
No, that's fine. I was gonna say you should say, Lucas, instead of stole it, say I was inspired by.
I don't care, dude. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Like it's like people who steal. It's like they're stealing from something from 3 months ago. When I steal, it's from something from another continent from 30 years ago. That's awesome.
Right. That's a
putting
gift.
it in a new context. I'm making it a
respect, man.
Yeah.
Well, I know a second ago you were talking about that you were able to meet Danny Elfman and Hans Zimmer and all these guys. How were you able to even meet these guys like in the first place, especially like if you're a kid at a high school? I mean, I'm not sure exactly when
I know exactly what you're asking, and I'll tell you the story. I was very lucky. My dad was a doctor in Martha's Vineyard. That was his job. That's why we lived in Martha's Vineyard, because he got the job at the hospital there. And he used to see a lot of celebrities. And it's like 40 years ago. I don't know if it's a HIPAA violation. I won't say who he saw, but there were a lot of celebrities. And he had an office full of his kids' stuff. So all the drawings my brother and I made and family photos would be in his office. And sometimes he would have guys go, oh, your kid's talented artist. And he'd say, oh yeah, now he's doing a magazine about movie soundtracks. And it happened to be the guy was like, oh, I do movie soundtracks. So I met a composer. His name's Fred Mullen. He's still a friend. He did the Friday the 13th TV show music. He was also a songwriter and does Nashville stuff. And he's been around a long, long time. And he's like, oh, this, when you're a kid, people are very encouraging. So I was very lucky. I met this fellow, Fred, and he said, "Oh, let me give you some phone numbers of some guys I know at these record companies in LA. They do boutique soundtracks, and I'm sure they'll send you like free CDs to review and stuff." I was like, awesome. So it really wasn't that hard because it was such a novelty that there was this kid doing a newsletter about their livelihoods that people would say, yeah, I'll read that. Or even if it was a little bit primitive and juvenile, they were forgiving of it because it was from a high school student. But that's how I met all these composers. And then I had a mind-blowing experience because I was a huge Trekkie and I wrote the Star Trek composers. And one of the Star Trek composers is a super talented guy and a super nice guy named Jay Chadway. And he did the television music for like 15 years. And he wrote back and said, you could have found me in your local phone book because I got a house there. And I went to the phone book. Let me explain to the kids. The phone book was a directory of numbers. Yeah. So I looked in the phone book, and sure enough, he was in the phone book because he had this summer house. And then when he was vacationing on the vineyard, I went and met him. And there were a lot of composers who happened to have these Martha's Vineyard connections. So, people were very generous, and that's how I was lucky to meet all these guys.
Wow. That's so, yeah, it was just like super fortunate.
I'll tell you one other funny story very quick. So you guys know who Diana Muldaur is from Star Trek?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Pulaski?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew there's a girl in my high school with the same last name. I didn't think anything of it. One time I read in Starlog an interview with Diana Muldaur where she said that she summered growing up on Martha's Vineyard. And I was like, what? And so I asked my classmate, she's a year younger than me, and before I could even finish the sentence, she goes, yeah, my aunt's on Star Trek. And I'm like, what? And I got to meet her. The family arranged for me to meet Diana Muldaur the next time she was on Martha's Vineyard. It was, again, people were so sweet to, like an upstart kid.
Man, I was just about to say, man, these guys are so fantastic. You typically kind of meet like these, or you think these people that work in Hollywood and they're famous and they got all these connections that they're going to have their nose up in the air and looking down on everybody. But man, everybody was so generous.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
People are nice. It's also Martha's Vineyard it really is a special place, and there's a certain it's just known on Martha's Vineyard that you have celebrities there, and you treat them like neighbors because they are our neighbors. So when we see Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn walking down Circuit Avenue holding hands, nobody bugs them because they're just our neighbors.
Yeah,
and it's just how it, and it's it's sort of known, and I think it makes people more comfortable there.
Yeah,
I wonder if.
No, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to ask really quick. I wonder if that's changed, because it seems like, well, I mean, the paparazzi and all that's always been aggressive, but I mean, I would imagine like if, let's say I visited Martha's Vineyard and I saw, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn walking down the street, I'd be like, oh, damn, look, it's Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. And I really don't know. I haven't lived there in a long time, but I think it's still kind of it's understood because people are social creatures and you see how everybody else is behaving. And yeah, very good point.
People ask for autographs and they're usually, they're nice to give them, or but it's known that like we have presidents there now. So Obama had a house there, and everybody kind of has an Obama story, or they know somebody who worked at the restaurant where he ate once. And
right.
But it's a really cool place, and I was very lucky to grow up there.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
I'm sorry, Henry.
Having a 50th anniversary Jaws Fest.
Yeah, it's the 50th anniversary. Yeah, 50th anniversrsary of Jaws. What, this week or this weekend?
Yeah, right now they're really going all out, which is, I wish I was there. It sounds kind of cool. When I was a kid, I knew about it, and I gave some of friends like the Jaws tour because I knew where all the locations were. I mean, they're not hidden; they're obvious.
Yeah. That's cool.
So I was gonna say, as you guys were talking about that, actually, I thought of a question that I ask people that do a lot of things, that have a collection of things. It's considered a really hard question because it's kind of like asking a parent, who's your favorite kid? Out of all the interviews that you've done, which one would you say is one of your favorites, or if you have a lot of favorites?
I do have favorites, but there is one that was memorable because we used to criticize Hans Zimmer a lot because it was sort of a case of remember Alex B. Keaton and Family Ties, where it's like that the conservative kid.
Yeah.
There were some ways in which we were kids, but we were very conservative, not politically, but aesthetically. And we liked John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith and big orchestras, and we didn't really like when Hans Zimmer came along and made it very pop and electronic. And so we were kind of hard on him. And he's a great guy, and he didn't care. But we interviewed him once, and he said, "Why are you guys slagging on all my stuff?" And he was very confrontational, but in a very charming way. And we rolled with it. And it's funny, for this Kickstarter we're doing, I've been going through our archives. One of the things we're going to do now that we're funded and we're continuing to try and reach stretch goals is we're going to make a best of FFSM 35th anniversary book. And we have this interview that we did with Hans Zimmer that was very confrontational and very entertaining. And so I think that one is probably my favorite, because it was, it was unique. And it was, he's a very charming, very talented, incredible guy. And I was wrong. I was wrong to dump on Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is a real artist.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How old were you when you interviewed him? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was 23, because it was 97, because it was The Peacemaker. Wow. That was the piece of shit movie we were talking about.
Man, I'm still impressed that you would be like, well, I mean, if you feel that passionate about something and you have the guy in front of you that you feel like is kind of tainting it, that it could get somewhat confrontational.
It was all
love. Yeah.
It was a fanzine, it was not really affecting their careers. And it was just something like amusing. It'd be like if you got into the, like the suitcase manufacturing company, and then all of a sudden there was Suitcases Monthly. It's like, really? Something making a magazine about us? There was something very workmanlike and craftsmanlike, where people went into film music because it was too hard to sustain a pop music career anymore. And then they sort of had second lives in a lot of cases. It's been interesting to watch the aesthetics evolve.
Right on.
Or devolve.
Yeah, right. Yeah, depending. So, okay. So I know we were starting to talk a little bit about, you're starting to put out new things, and with the Kickstarter campaign. So what is that going to be for? What's the deets?
Sure. Well, thank you. And I appreciate that you've got listeners who are, I'm sure, open-minded and enthusiastic, but at the same time, they don't really know a lot about film music. And so they really don't know what the perks would be or the tiers would be. And, but basically what happened is that we lost our website. It's still working, but we were told that somebody's retiring, and sort of the financial arrangement that we would make to get a website is going away, and we need to convert a very old website to a modern programming language. And if you went to a real and normal hosting company, they go, "Oh, sure, no problem. It's $80,000. Ooh. And so I was, it's because we have 25 years worth of articles and a message board, but it's in an antiquated programming language. So anyway, we had this kind of time bomb go off on us, where I was like, oh man, I got to raise at least $30,000 to fix this website, because I can't let this website go away. And I was like, wait a minute. I looked at the calendar, and it's like, hey, it's our anniversary. And I did a Kickstarter like 10 years ago to make this short film, and it went pretty well. And I've never really done a Kickstarter for Film Score Monthly. So let's give it a shot. And it's going well. So we want to make a new website. We want to make the new message board where we have a community. We want to, what I really want to do is take our 35 years worth of articles and get them properly tagged and organized, because we have them all, but they're not, you can't really find anything unless you knew what issue it was in or what the exact words of the headline were. So I want to fix it. I want to make it a place that people can go for free and just spend hours reading all these interviews. Because if you want to see an interview with, like a 30-year-old film scorer, if you want to know what Alan Silvestri thought when he scored Eraser or Forrest Gump, I mean, we've got the articles, and it's right there, and you can read it. It's just now it's kind of hidden, and we got to extract everything and get it properly organized.
Yeah, no, there are definitely fans that will love that.
Well, I hope
eat
so.
that up.
And look, we have different tier packages of, anywhere from like, you can just buy a new CD of some Filmation music we're doing for $20, or the best of book for $30. And then we have various packages that go up into hundreds. So it's really for what people's needs are and what their comfort is. But yeah, if you have people who this sounds like it's up their alley and they want some film score swag, or the support is very, very appreciated. And I've been doing this long enough to make sure that all the money gets allocated and spent on the things. Everything will be fulfilled timely. I've done, when I did my Kickstarter, my Indiegogo, the last time for the short film, I got all the perks out on time and people were happy, and the short film came out well. So
right on. Are there any other like cool little perks or whatever that might entice?
Yeah, I'm doing film composer trading cards. When
I saw that, I was like, that's genius. That is genius.
Because I was a kid and you could go get baseball players. I was like, why shouldn't I have a John Barry card? I don't want a Mike Greenwell card. I want a John Barry card.
Right. And they got cards for everything nowadays.
They got cards for everything. I don't care about second string catcher on the Red Sox. I don't care. I don't need a Gary Allenson baseball card. I need a Basil Polidorus card, man.
Right.
So
no disrespect to those baseball players. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Yaz card. I want a Yaz card, but I don't really need the Rich Gedman card.
That's, man.
Somebody in New England is going, I remember those guys. So yeah, I made these cards to promote our CDs like 20 years ago, and they're all out of print. And so I was like, wait, we've got those. So we updated them, and we'll make a new printing of them, and we'll actually make a pack so that you can just get all of them with these perk packages. So I thought that was fun. That's a perk to me. You know, it's fun. It's small. It's not, it's like, who can really be offended by film composer trading cards?
Right. No, man, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a great idea.
I'll send you some. I'll have plenty of extras.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll support, man. I'm 100% down for it. I mean, cause you've got it like a piece of history. You know what I mean? Really, if you want to get down to it, film, that's a part of, that's Americana, like our films and everything. And our soundtracks are a huge part of that. Whether people realize it or not, the music in the movie, that it tells you how to feel, how to react, when to react. It does all that kind of stuff. And people do love a lot of that music, whether they are, whether they're aware of it or not, like, cause when you'll play like the theme song to Rocky or something, people will, they'll perk up kind of thing. So
yes, it's our culture, it's our heritage, it's our lives. We spend our lives with art and listening to stories and thinking about what they mean to us. And the music carries those emotions, and they're meaningful to us.
Big time.
Yeah, I can tell you guys with this audience for sure that it is, because we've done it a couple of times actually. Next month, we're all going to be in San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con. We're in line for whatever panels. That's a game that I've played with people in line before, where they play a soundtrack and we have to guess what movie is it from. It becomes fun and it sparks conversations. So yeah, this audience definitely remembers and knows and loves the music. So yeah, the baseball card idea. Yeah, I was thinking also, again, knowing how this audience is, if you can somehow get them signed, if they're still alive. That makes it more valuable.
We've done like 36 cards, and I think like 33 of them are deceased. So I don't know about that. I can't get your Miklos Rocha card signed. But
that just makes it more special though.
Yeah,
but it's sad. There are guys who were alive when we did the cards, and now they're not. There are stories that I know that from my encounters with these composers who are gone, like Basil, Leonard Rosenman. He had these amazing stories. He was James Dean's roommate. That's how he scored Rebel Without a Cause and had the career he did. And I was very lucky. I felt very lucky to meet these guys. And it's always been deeply strange to me when I meet them to think that how many minutes and hours and days and years of my lives have I had these tunes and these sounds in my head, and they created them. And you just have to ask, like, how did you think of that? and sometimes they can articulate it and sometimes they can't, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, no matter what the answer would be, I'd still be impressed by it. You know what I mean? Whether it's just something, yeah, like you said, they don't know how they did it. They just kind of did it.
Or sometimes I met the guy who ghost wrote the Voltron theme. Daniel
Which is
Licht.
iconic.
Daniel Licht, he was the ghostwriter on the Voltron theme, and he scored like Dexter and a lot of cool stuff. He said, "Oh yeah, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark upside down." I was like, "No way!" I was like, "Oh my god, it is."
I don't even know what that means. Upside down.
Da, 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 da. And Voltron is.
Dun, 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 dun.
Da, da, da.
Oh, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
Oh, you just blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
Everybody running to YouTube to play like, wait a minute, let me see.
Wait, what? Oh, well,
And sometimes
that explains why I love that so much.
Sometimes it's actually the cadence of the movie title. Because there's this obscure movie called Cherry 2000. You guys know that?
I know Cherry 2000.
Yeah. With Basil
Meg
Paul
Ryan was in it, yeah.
Yeah, and no, is it Melanie Griffith? Who's?
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, it's
yeah, and that
red hair,
hot model Pamela. And Basil scored it. He said, "Yeah, it's Cherry 2000, Cherry 2000," and the whole, like he kind of. A lot of times these guys, they're under such time pressures that they'll just they'll try that and see if it works.
Yeah.
And they'll make it work.
Well, I mean, Superman is quite literally Superman.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a trip. Yeah, man. Man, I'm looking forward to having access to all this. Do you have an idea like when you think the website might be up and like ready to rock and roll? No pun intended.
It's done by the late fall. I mean, I don't know exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Late fall of
this year. No, this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So right around nice.
Yeah.
All right. So very good.
Yeah, and for all of you listening that do, and I know you do want to get involved, I have it linked up on the show description. Just click on Lucas's name; it'll take you right there. You can get involved. Now, before we let you go, Lucas, I want to finish with one fun question. We're actually talking about this when we started the episode. This is from a story from last week where the Strange New Worlds, the Star Trek show, just had its season 3 premiere, and the executive producers were asked, okay, so what happens next? Because it's been announced that season 5 is going to be their final season. So do you guys have any plans for what's next? They said Paramount hasn't greenlit it, so nobody get excited yet. But what they would love to do, with the same staff, behind-the-scenes staff, some of the actors, they would love to reimagine the original series. Now, you mentioned that Star Trek was a big influence on you. How would you feel about them reimagining the original series?
I don't think I'd be excited about it, but I think every generation is entitled to their interpretation, and it doesn't. It's just like the JJ movies. It doesn't. They're not really to my taste, but there are things about them that are dazzling. So I don't really watch or like the new shows. They don't seem to be my Star Trek. They don't seem to be properly slow or boring enough. But I don't begrudge people for reinventing things.
Yeah, I mean, not to repeat what I said, but basically I said that's one show that doesn't really need to be reimagined because it's cool, but it's also sad at the same time because a lot of the themes that it touched on are still relevant today, which means we haven't learned our lesson as humans, obviously. So they're still relevant. So that is one show that doesn't need a reimagining. It does just fine the way it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. You show, if you look at the original Star Trek series, and of course it's a classic and a cultural icon, and there's like cringeworthy stuff all the time. There's rampant sexism and even despite the equality that it presents, there's a lot of racism there, and sort of it just reflects the colonialism of the times, and some of that is going to be off-putting or odd or not very inviting to younger people today. I don't know. I mean, it's just the Star Trek is weird because it is a future but it's really just a projection of a past imagination of future. So it's sort of like a parallel future. And our own technology has surpassed it in so many ways. I mean, why do they, when they hit the communicator, why do they look up? Why do they talk into the communicator? I think the actors once asked that, and they're like, well, this makes no sense. It's just the convention, just look up. So there's so many things about Star Trek that are ridiculous. And we accept them because we were kids, and that's how it was. But I don't know. I'm sort of rambling. I don't care if they make a new Star Trek classic. I don't really think they should, because I think you're doing a disservice to everybody involved. Why remake something that was great? You remake something that was a great idea that sucked. Remake Logan's Run. Don't remake Star Trek.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like what you said about, every generation should, or not necessarily should every generation, but having their own reimagining of something. I like that concept. I'm a little, I don't know about them reimagining the new one or doing the new one, because it feels like the spirit of the original series and even Star Trek: The Next Generation, there was this spirit of like camaraderie, of humanity working together, of us trying to be better and learn more. And I haven't seen a whole lot of the new stuff, but I feel like the new stuff doesn't do that too much. They're more interested in, action and, and flash.
They're more interested in all that razzle dazzle, and there's a kind of hyperactivity to it that I don't like. I love Andor. Like, that's where I'm at now.
Fantastic.
As a 50-year-old Star Wars fan, like Andor is what I grew up wanting, and they have made a Star Trek that is as good as Andor. Let's take Star Trek and treat it like it's The Wire, because a lot of things fall apart because I'll leave you with one thought, which is that I realize the appeal of Star Trek is that it's a projection of what kids imagine or want adulthood to be.
Ooh.
Because what are the two defining things of adult life? Sex and money. I mean, what's not in Star Trek? There's no money. And the sex is like fairy tale sex. It's like what Irvin Kershner said about Star Wars: a kiss is a love scene. It's sex the way we think of our parents as kids. It's about being a kid and imagining, what will I do when I grow up? Like, what are jobs like? Well, you do a level 5 diagnostic. It's like, I don't know. It's all very abstract. And the most pivotal characters always on Star Trek are the aliens and the weirdos and the robots, because those are versions of human children who don't really fit in. If you think about it, because, it makes me emotional to think about it. Spock is a repressed child. Data is like an autistic child. Worf is an angry, antisocial child. And they're learning how to be people.
Yeah. See, and you guys can't see me, but I'm smiling when Lucas says that, because that's actually almost word for word what Gene Roddenberry's son, a good friend of mine, Rod was going by Eugene again. That's what he said when he first came on. We were talking about JJ Star Trek. Yeah. He pointed out that exactly what you said, that if you notice in everything that his dad did, it's always the non-human, the alien character that shows humanity the most.
Yes, it is about those aliens trying to fit in with humanity the way we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See,
man,
that's how you close off an interview. So again, it's Lukas Kendall. I have the Kickstarter linked up on the show description. I know those all of you that heard it, you guys want to get involved. Lucas, thanks a lot for coming on, and like I said, you're definitely one of us. So you're welcome back. Not just talk about the magazine, but just talk about anything in geek culture.
Well, thank you guys. This has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Issues of the Day will be right back.
In case you missed it, the Geek Speak Expo has been rescheduled to the fall of 2026. That means that the search for speakers and panelists is once again on. If you have an idea for a panel, you now have an opportunity to pitch it to us to be included next year. The Geek Speak Expo is an all-ages event, so keep it all ages appropriate. You know what that means. If you have to ask if something is appropriate, let me answer it right here. No, it isn't. We are hoping to feature panels highlighting independent films and filmmakers, books including comics and graphic novels, cosplay, gaming, video, RPG, and card games, and anything else that would interest a geek audience. Visit thegeekspeakshow.com for more info and to submit a panel for next year's Geek Speak Expo.
Attention fans of horror and paranormal media, I invite you to pick up and read a copy of Eerie Expeditions magazine. You won't find interviews with paranormal TV celebrities or a retelling of the same old, "this place has been haunted for years" type of stories. Eerie Expeditions magazine is filled with articles about real people dealing with real hauntings. Founded and edited by author C.L. Thomas, Eerie Expeditions is your start to a supernatural frontier. Visit EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com to get a single issue or a yearly subscription.
Now back to the Geek Speak Show, Volume 2's Issues of the Day.
Other than the bronchitis that I'm still getting over, summer, and it is officially summer now, it's been pretty good to me this year. I think the fact that I was forced to rest and do nothing, that might have a little something to do with it. But that also gave me the opportunity to notice something that isn't good. As much as I hate it, and I have hated it, I've said it many times on the Geek Speak Show over the years, really since I started the Geek Speak Show. As much as I hate it, it's looking like studios, talking about major film studios and the streamers, they've embraced, I guess we can call it, spoiler culture and industry scoopers or leakers, and those have become a thing. Now that is how they're promoting films. Again, I've told you guys many, many times how much I hate that. Mark, I can ask you because two reasons. One, we're from the same timeline as we just heard in the last interview. So we're used to not getting things spoiled for us. We had no idea, along with the rest of our generation, that Darth Vader was Luke's dad. We had no idea. It was a shock to everybody. So that's one reason. The second reason is because you and Trent also do a show like the Geek Speak Show that talks about these movies and shows. You guys have mentioned that you sometimes don't like that. So I guess you're going to have to speak for Trent on this one also. But now that it seems that geek culture is going that way, they're embracing, yes, let's spoil everything first. Are you guys okay with that direction?
Well, let me speak for Trent first off. First,
Screw
this
you
is my
guys.
Trent impression. I'm mad at everybody. Thank you. That was my Trent.
I can hear Trent saying, yeah, because I'm not there to defend myself. That's how you guys do that.
That's how we do.
And the answer is, yeah, that is why.
But we insult out of love. But no, I do feel comfortable saying, for Trent, for myself, for the Geek Off the Street podcast, I'm not a fan of just the blatant spoilers. Like I don't mind. I don't mind like teasing projects and that kind of thing, or, this is going to be something coming in the works. Like I'm okay with that. But when you start to, like unintentionally or oops, it came out, you start revealing things about the show or about the movie itself. That's the whole part. That's one of the big things about going to a movie is to see that surprise, to follow the story, to try to unravel what's going on in the movie yourself. That's always a fun thing to do that I enjoy doing when I go watch a movie. So no, in a nutshell, I am not a fan of letting letting the cat out of the bag, so to speak. So yeah, not a fan. Not a fan.
I mean, you just heard it just a few minutes ago. I love that. I'm glad it's recorded. Your reaction, wait till you hear it. Your natural reaction when Lucas mentioned, I forget what he was talking about, but he said that the theme is the Superman or the Raiders theme backwards.
Oh, yeah, with Voltron?
Yeah. And
I was like,
your
what?
reaction was like, and this is Voltron is a show that you and I grew up with
hell yeah,
decades ago.
Yeah.
And we're still learning something new about it.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if somebody like or Jurassic Park. Well, yeah, Jurassic Park is coming out first. That's coming up, and somebody says there's a new theme, and that new theme is the Star Wars theme backwards. You don't, like you said, you don't get that joy of discovery where, like, wait a minute,
right?
That kind of sounds like let me go see. You don't get that because like now you're listening for it. Oh, I was told this guy said that it's the Star Wars theme backwards, or this guy's gonna die, or this is gonna happen. Like my son, he grew up on Jurassic Park, so he's really looking forward to this one. He's been going to McDonald's and all the or wherever is doing the tie-ins, getting the toy, all the stuff, getting the posters, everything. But he's already telling me this one dies, and I told him, I said, why are we gonna go watch the movie if you already know who dies and who lives and what's
terrible.
coming?
That's terrible.
What? It makes it more fun. I said, how?
Does it?
Yeah. But again, this is why, and this is not quote unquote anything official. It's just what I'm seeing. I mean, in fact, I could say something, but then I'd have to reveal some behind the scenes stuff. So I'm not. I'll just say a friend of mine that a lot of you, I'm sure, know. He is the president of Marvel Studios. He many times has said, I don't like leaks. I don't like things getting spoiled. He's now not spoiling things, but he's not giving things away that, I'll just say certain journalists, we were told directly by him, don't give out these details. But he's on an international stage. He was internationally doing this, giving away details about one of their biggest movies. And I'm just sitting there, really? You're lecturing us about not leaking things, but that's just me. Hi, I know he listens to the show. So, yeah, again, the old guys, I guess this would be the get off my lawn moment. I don't get that. I don't get the needing to know everything before we go watch a movie. So I guess we're on board that one. I'd be interested. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard of people doing that. I knew someone that like if she was going to read a novel, like a romance novel or whatever, like she would read the last page
first.
Yeah, just to find out if there's going to be like a happy, like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's going to be something that she wants to get invest her time in, which to me was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like you're ruining that journey, and that's part of the movie is the journey. It's not always, I mean, with a good movie, it's the destination as well, but it's the journey to get there. You know, you have to. It's not just knowing, 2 and 2 + 2 is 4. You have to know why 2 + 2 is 4. You have to know how to put 2 and 2 together to make 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just that final destination. So I would imagine if I was,
and
like,
Mark's not talking about the movie either.
I know. I was about to say, I'm not talking about the movie. Let me throw that in there. But if you are a writer, if you are a director, I would feel like the movie's being sabotaged right now if you go out there and you start doing that kind of thing. Because when you work so hard to put a movie together, to write it, to rewrite it, to block it and get actors and film it and shoot and everything else, like you want to create an experience for someone, and then for them to turn around and say like, oh yeah, Kaiser Sose is so-and-so. It's like, what do you don't know? To me, you ruined the experience of it. But maybe kids today are, younger people, they don't, and maybe it's not all of them clearly, but maybe they don't feel that same desire to go on that kind of journey. They just want, is it like an instant gratification kind of thing? Yes. I want to know who's going to live, who's going to die, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. Happy
Yes,
ending,
and I
sad
blame
ending.
social media for that.
Hmm.
Because, you know, I see them in my own kids. They're sitting there when it's quote unquote relaxed time. Their relaxed time is sitting on the couch, on the phone, just mindlessly scrolling. Are you even paying attention? No. So yeah, they have social media has programmed society today, especially the last 3 generations, to not care, to not be involved. It's okay to not experience. I mean, again, this is how things change. When you go to something like Disneyland or a concert, a live concert, I get some of it, but not really. People, you know, when the fireworks thing is going on, when the whoever the act is, whatever band you went to see, when they're performing, instead of sitting there clapping, singing along, dancing, whatever, phones everywhere. Everybody's got the phones. I was like, can you just experience the thing? Do you have to record every single thing? To me, it's silly. I don't. People might think I'm weird for saying this. The answer I get to that is always, but this is so I remember it. You know, we were created with a brain. Memories do stay in there. Yeah, but I can't replay them back. That's part of life. We forget things as we get older. Yeah, but not. You know what? Forget it. Fine. So that's what social media does. Whether it's a good or bad thing, I don't know. But you know, maybe it's just me showing my age. My memories are up here. They're not on a phone.
Yeah. And I have to admit, I mean, I've been sucked into that too. I've been sucked into like you start scrolling through something, or you look at one thing that pops up on your feed or whatever, and next thing you know, like an hour has gone by and you've just been doing, just been working your index finger.
Yeah.
For an hour just scrolling through stuff. So I mean,
you just made me think of something. You gave me an answer to something actually. This is why we all point the fingers at everything. Nothing is ever our fault because, like you said, we work out the finger. That's the strongest muscle we have in the body. So we're easily able to point it at, you. No, it's not me. It's you. That's why, because we exercise so much. So never mind. That's something weird I thought about. You made me think when you said that. But yeah, I mean, that's the last thing I wanted to bring up. Not really officially an issue. There's something I'm noticing and not liking. So I just wanted to see how I guess you'll have to speak for Trent, like I said, but I really want to see what he would have to say about something like that, because I've heard him say some things about that in you guys' episodes. Now, Before we completely wrap up, I told you at the end you can throw in either topics that you want to talk about or do like the rapid fire questions that you guys. I like when you guys did that actually on your anniversary show. So this is we're gonna flip it around. This is now the Marc Pope / kind of Geek Off the Street show.
All right. Do you feel like you're up to a rapid fire question? And you can take your time. Just because it's rapid fire question doesn't mean you have to rush through it.
Yes, I'm ready.
Name alien or aliens?
That one I said alien, and you didn't like that.
Yeah. So, do you want to change your answer? I'm looking at you intently right now. Intensely.
No.
All right. I respect you for not giving in.
You know, I don't remember if you did or not. Did you explain why that upset you?
Oh, I think both movies are good. Both movies are great. I feel like
Aliens is just better.
I think Aliens, honestly, I think it's put together better. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast, but for example, I mean, if you talk about the growth of Ripley's character, let's say, like in Alien, there is no character arc. You know what I mean? She starts the same, she ends the same, which, that's fine. You can do that. They call it a flat arc in movie making. I'm like, if it's flat arc, then it's not an arc. So don't call it that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But I feel like her character has a lot more growth in that first one, or in that second one, Aliens. Like, she's dealing with the trauma of, she's missed 80 years of her life. She had a child. They don't really show that except in the director's cut. Yeah. She had a child that got left behind, that, she grows up and, has passed away by the time Ripley comes back in the world. So her having that connection with Newt in that second one, it makes it that much better. And then she's having so many just nightmares and fears about this character, or about the aliens that are out there, traumatizing her, or that what she's gone through. For her to have that moment where she kind of confronts the queen and basically kind of fights her and all that kind of stuff. It's a better story arc. I think the supporting cast in it is the first Alien supporting cast is great. In Aliens, the supporting cast is great. I think they all have their moments. And Trent made the comment like he thought it's, oh, here we go, another like 80s action movie. When they're briefing, when they all come out of like their cryogenic sleep, and Vasquez says, just tell me where they are, just so I can point and shoot. And I think at that point in time, he kind of latched onto that line. And that's where it kind of stopped for him. But the most important part of that scene is the very next line that Ripley says, where she says, I hope you're right, because I've seen these things, and it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. So I think there's this great thing showing like Ripley has this, I said it in the show, she has like the burden of knowledge. She has I don't want to call it the burden of foresight. She doesn't have that, but she knows the truth and nobody else sees it. And again, it kind of plays into in Terminator 2.
Sarah Connor.
Name right now. Yeah, Sarah Connor. The exact same thing. The characters are extremely similar. I mean, they're from the same director.
Yeah.
But it's very similar. She has the burden of knowledge. She knows the truth, and she's the only one. They're both the only ones that know the truth about this menace that they're dealing with. With Ripley, she's the only one that's come face to face with these aliens and lived. And with Sarah Connor, she's the only one that's come face to face with one of these Terminators and has come out alive and come out on the other side of it. And they both know there is something very, very terrible on the horizon, and I need help dealing with it, and they're not getting the help. So for that reason, like, I think her character is so much better. She's a great female, protagonist. I mean, that's the textbook. If you want to write a strong female character without them, being Mary Sued and kind of dismissed, or say that they're part of the woke agenda, that's how you do it. So in a nutshell,
can we change
that's
that?
The reason why.
The Mary Sue. Can we change that now to Ray Sue?
That's a great idea.
Everybody knows why at this point.
At this point,
yeah. But you saying all of that, I got to say, okay, you have convinced me to stick with Alien. and I say that seriously.
I'm done with you, man.
No, I say that because the reason why I like what you said makes sense. But that I didn't see there wasn't a franchise. It was just Alien. And kind of like the two characters you mentioned, Sarah Connor and Ripley, we now looking back, we have the advantage of seeing all that where it's all going to go. And now we have Predators and all that stuff. But back then, and I think that's how Ridley Scott approached it. They didn't know if people were going to like this Alien movie or not, so they just made a movie. To me, I've always liked Alien because, as you know, that's why I do a paranormal show. I've always liked scary movies. And I've always seen Alien, it's sci-fi, but it's also a haunted house in space.
Right.
Which is very cool. Yeah, it's very cool. Claustrophobic. And I didn't really see Ripley as the main character. I just saw them all as victims, really. I saw the main character as the xenomorph, basically. And so I wasn't looking for, like you said, development in Ripley, because I thought she was going to be torn apart in the middle of the movie, like everybody else was, and the alien was going to live somehow. That didn't happen. So really what I'm saying is I see Alien and Aliens as two separate and different movies, even though they're part of the same franchise. Because, there's some, what Trent said, what you said, he said on the show, that it's just a typical 80s movie. Well, yeah, it was the 80s. You had to have that in there. That of course that's going to be in there, but that was, like you said, that wasn't typical of 80s movies, where when Schwarzenegger or Stallone or whoever the muscle guy was, nobody responded to Rambo. I hope you're right, Rambo. I hope you can take out the I always say, if we had sent Rambo, we could have won the Vietnam War with just him alone. But nobody said what you said, what Ripley said. I hope you're right. because that's I've seen him, and that's not really what it's like. You can't just point and shoot and okay, Marines save the day. It's not, and as we saw, that's not how it went. So yeah, they are two different movies, but for me, because I like scary stuff and especially like haunted house movies, I've always seen Alien as a haunted house in space. I think Ridley Scott described it as that in an interview I saw one time. So for that reason, like I said, I'm going to stick with Alien. I'm not going to.
No, that's cool.
That's no, then you're thinking all that, and you still won't change your answer.
I'm like start slamming stuff down. No, but I 100% actually agree with that. Those are they're two very different movies. They just basically kind of have the same name on them, essentially.
Yeah.
But I mean, Alien was great because it's a haunted house movie in space. He combined these two different genres.
Yeah.
Probably most people would think you can't do that.
Yeah, I will say, if you ask me about not Alien, but Aliens to Alien 3, yes, we'll be here for another 5 hours, because there I absolutely I do see those as one story, and there I don't like what they did. Like you're saying, now that Ripley is the main character, was established in Aliens, I don't like, I sound like Mark Hamill here, but I don't like what they did with her character by Alien 3, because it's not Ripley. It's not the Ripley that we were introduced to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most people agree with that. That's cool. Is there a universe you think needs to be expanded upon more, or should be expanded upon more, other than like Star Trek or something? So,
yes, Star Wars.
Okay, so keep going with the Star Wars.
No, and I say that because, well, the way you said it is that needs to be expanded more. I know we've had all these spin-offs and sequels and stuff. There has to be more than just Skywalkers everywhere. That's what I mean by expanded. There's got to be other stories. I know we got Mando, but there's got to be other stories besides the same timelines. We're sticking with the sequel now, or we go pre Clone Wars era. We got to start moving forward at some point.
Okay. I think Trent's kind of on that same page too. Actually, like I think he basically said the same thing. There's got to be more to that universe than the Skywalkers, right?
Yeah, you know what I'll say about that too is we've talked about, you guys have mentioned it on your show on Geek Off the Street. We've said it here on the Geek Speak show. When we're together, we've said it on these episodes. Star Wars fans, we know, no argument, they're some of the most toxic fans out there. I think some are. Influencers are toxic on purpose, but I don't think they're toxic on purpose. I think what it is they don't know how to articulate what I just said. The Skywalker story pretty much is over, and you can't admit that the Skywalkers lost. I don't care if she says I'm Rey Skywalker. You're not a Skywalker. You're a Palpatine. The dark side won. I love that because I'm about the dark side. So that's over. We accepted. Thanks, JJ. You ruined Star Wars, but that's a whole other thing. So there, it's finished. Now we want to know, okay, what's next? We did the Skywalker story, keep it in the Star Wars universe, but what's next? That's part of the reason why I think everybody really was surprised when I said I didn't enjoy Andor. And I know Lukas, when we talked to him, he said he loves Andor. I've never loved Andor for that very reason, because again, we keep going backwards. The prequels I liked, but we knew Obi-Wan wasn't going to die in any of them. We know how he dies. We knew Anakin wasn't going to die. We'd never get Darth Vader. So we knew what the outcome of those stories are. With Andor, no matter how heroic or what happens, we know how he dies. We know how season 2 was going to end no matter what. So now, how about some characters that aren't Skywalkers, aren't Rey, aren't Finn, aren't Poe, aren't anybody that are tied to anybody, and we have no idea. Are they going to live? Are they good? Are they even Jedi? Are they Force users? What are they? That's what I want to know. And what happens after the First Order is defeated? Now what? What comes next? That's where I want to go. And I think that's a lot of Star Wars fans, their same feeling, but I don't know, for whatever reason, they're the one fandom that doesn't know how to say that. They have to yell at, no, I hate Star Wars, everything is woke, everything. That's really what it is that they're asking for different Star Wars, but they don't know how to ask for different Star Wars.
That's also some good observations. One thing I'll say really quick, and you can respond to it, obviously in defense of Andor. What I do like about it is it shows like this more I guess a realistic side of what it would take to start a rebellion against the Empire. So that I like, and again, we already know how Andor, whatever his name is, we already know how he meets his fate, but to me, the story was a lot more about the rebellion and like the dark side. It wasn't just somebody hopping into a fighter and flying around and shooting a laser blaster. It was getting the funding together. It was spying. It was all this other kind of secretive underground dirty stuff that is a part of a war and part of a rebellion. And to me, Andor wasn't. I mean, the rebellion was the main character, so to speak, of that show. It wasn't so much Andor himself. So in response to the other thing you said, that's a fantastic idea about moving the story forward. Yeah, now let's see what happens once the First Order has been defeated. Like, where does it go now? And part of me, I like the idea. I don't like the idea. It seemed like at one point they were trying to set up Rey is going to rebuild the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a fan of that I am, because I feel like that was always Luke Skywalker's story, and then they kind of like chopped him off. They hobbled him at the knees, and they put her in his place, which I'm not a fan of. So what I would like to see, kind of piggybacking on what you said, is maybe go a few years down the line. Like, this is after Rey has, done whatever she's done. But yeah, I do like the idea of like moving that story forward and seeing now where are we going? Now where do we go from here? Like I said, I'm not a fan of Rey doing what Luke was, meant, it seems to me, to do. But moving the story forward after all of this is a good idea. That's actually where they should probably take the franchise.
Yeah. Although I will say, I don't know if any of you watched it, you or Trent, everything that was announced for the future in at Star Wars Celebration this year, honestly, I have zero excitement for any of them. None of those projects, movie and I know we have the Grogu movie, or Mando and Grogu movie, coming next year. Looks cool, but I mean, what is it really going to do? Is more of the same thing again?
You're right. Yeah. I mean, is there going to be some sort of like moral to the story? Is it going to be, or I mean, I'm sure it's not just going to be them flying around and having adventures and doing cool scenes. There's got to be some sort of point to it, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. They set him up to be I don't know.
Well, that's where you got to get worried, because that's kind of what happened from season 2 to season 3, where it started great, but then it kind of lost their way. It's like, okay, everybody loves this character, but what do we do with him? And
yeah, they
brought in Boba Fett, they brought in Luke Skywalker, and they brought in Ahsoka, and it's like they forgot that Mando is the main character here.
That stuff's hitting. Let me see. Okay, so we already asked before, like, what geek universe would you exist in? You said Star Trek. Which universe would you destroy? Has that changed? No. I know. Oh, you just said the other ones. Okay, yeah. So you would destroy the Twilight and the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games was good. I like the Hunger Games.
I like the books. The movies, I wasn't a big fan of.
Okay, all right. Respect. I haven't seen the books. Okay, so any superpower, which would you have? What did you say last time? Was it flight or invisibility?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. Probably that, because I've always wanted those, but it's. I think time travel would be another one that I want. I would want to be Cable, I guess, basically, is what I'm saying.
Oh, right on.
Or Kang. And not mind control, but being able to read people's minds. Especially, it's kind of a geek thing, but really it's a guy thing. Everybody knows men cannot understand women. Well, maybe if I could read your minds, how many times have we said that? So that superpower I would want.
Just so you can be a better husband. What a guy. What a guy. All right. So this one I know I asked before, but it's kind of a good question. Knowing everything you know now, would you rather be reborn today or keep your original birth date? Knowing everything you know now, would you like to, and it's not going to cancel or hurt anybody, would you like to start over again, like currently today? Let's say like you you expire and then you wake up in a new body, or would you rather take everything you know now and go back to?
It's funny.
The
like
early,
I'm milk.
70s.
I expired. No, I died.
yeah. How do you want to say it? How do you want to put it out there in the universe, man? How do you want to say it? We were talking about this before we recorded it because I think we mentioned it on you guys' anniversary show, and I like that because I've actually had those thoughts before. I've thought about that in my personal life. So yeah, that's an easy answer. The easy answer is I would want to go back and be reborn the year I was born. However, retain every experience, every knowledge, every breakup, every heartache, everything, every sickness. Now, yes, I know that includes knowing world events, 9/11, big things like that. But I'm not going to stop him. Last week's Geek Speak episode was all about that. You can't change the world. No, you can't try. You don't need to put the weight of the shoulders on your shoulders. I mean, the weight of the world on your shoulders. So I'm not going to change, any big events. Those will still happen. But I think on you guys' anniversary show, I did mention the one thing I would change, I would do anything I can to change, is that somehow George Lucas was never George Lucas, and I'm the one that came up with Star Wars. You put out Star Wars in 1972 or something, or you put it out.
Yes.
Well, no,
77, and I don't know how a 4-year-old will come up with it, but somehow we'll make it happen.
This kid's a genius.
What do you mean streaming? What is streaming? You're gonna throw it in the river? You'll see.
Yeah, just trust me. Yeah, right. Just nod. You'll see. I think we asked about which Harry Potter house you're in, but you said you haven't. Did you say you have not seen the Harry Potter movies? Or
no, I did. No, it's I forgot again.
Oh,
what's Harry's house?
Gryffindor.
Yeah, Gryffindor.
Gryffindor. Okay.
Which you guys were surprised because you thought I was going to say Slytherin.
I did not think that. Maybe Trent did. I think maybe that, or maybe even like Ravenclaw.
Or maybe it was
because that's like
maybe for Trent it was wishful thinking because he wants people to go to the dark side with him.
To join.
Little does he know, I've been there already.
that's what the good master does, right behind the scenes.
Yes.
It's been me the whole time. Which fictional character, and this could be any fictional character, do you identify with the most?
Peter Parker. Why? That was easy. Peter Parker. Not because I climb walls. Well, people make me climb walls, metaphorically. But Peter Parker because, like many of us, and I think we mentioned it a little bit with Lucas when he was on with us, we were Peter Parker, other than the spider powers, but we weren't the cool kids. We weren't with the cool crowd. They thought that we were like with Lucas. What you like music, not Van Halen, not Duran Duran, not the music we grew up with. He liked the Goonies soundtrack. He liked Star Wars.
Right.
Like what
orchestra movements.
Yeah, what's wrong with this kid? So we were always the weirder kids. So that's why I liked science. My best subjects were history and science. Not math, not the usual subjects. It was those two, the nerdy subjects, history and science. I was great at those. I loved when we had the science fairs. And yes, I like most of our people from our generations. I did do the volcano. Did it explode? And it didn't work for me the first time. Then I did do one where I put a little too much. I think it was baking soda, and it did blow up. Then not the way I wanted it though. So that's why. Because I never got the girl. none of that. It was Peter Parker. So when I started reading the comics, and I said, hey, that's me. And again, we three have talked about this. I think on you guys' show. Representation, all that is a big thing, and it is, but that there goes to show that I didn't need Peter Parker to look like me because I identified with him. That's what makes these characters universal. That even if he's not black or Asian or or Mexican like me or whatever they are, we still go through the same things. Not being cool. Didn't matter that I was Mexican or whatever. Nobody said, "Oh, he's Mexican. Let's give him a break." No, they said, you play with those Star Wars toys, you play with dolls. I still got it. So that's why it's Peter Parker. It's always been Peter Parker. That's why if you ever come into the Geek Speak studio, you'll see him, not him, but posters of him all over the place.
Right on. Yeah, no, Peter Parker was us. And what a great idea. That's like basically targeting your audience, right? Because everybody reading comic books at that time was probably a younger person. instead of having all these adults like it had always been, all these people that are middle-aged or whatever, all of a sudden you have a teenage superhero. Which he's the main character, not a sidekick.
Yeah, exactly. Which I will say, I was about to throw that in. I'm looking at his picture up there. I got to tell him one time, Stan Lee, I'm glad he did that. I wasn't even born, let alone thought of. But we, the geeks, the nerds, what did they call them back then? What was the word they used back then? The squares back then.
Oh, right.
We needed a hero too. There was Captain America. There was all the ones that he created, the Fantastic Four. But I remember I told him one time, I said, Stan, I'm glad you created the hero for us. That was my whole intention. That was his answer.
I like that. They kind of sounded like it with a little bit of raspiness in there.
Yeah.
That's funny. What made up meal or snack food have you always wanted to try?
I think I said the Ray thing when you guys asked me on your show. But
that puff thing, or
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
They had those at Disney. They made those at Disney.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I think it was a time that I wasn't. Do we still have them?
They come and go. There's
time.
One time that I went and they were not there, and I was like, "What are you talking about right now?" So I think that it just kind of comes and goes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but other than that, I mean, I can't think of anything else that I would want to. I'm trying to think like what did they eat in Star Trek? But it was it looked like Jello, like. What do you call those? Play-Doh squares, really, is what their food looked like.
Oh, yeah, their food caps, whatever. One thing that I always wanted to try from Star Trek, so I think this is actually my made-up food that I would want to try, is Romulan ale. I don't know. I really don't know why, like, when they were talking about Romulan ale.
That stuff's illegal,
Yeah, exactly. I was never, I wasn't like a drinker because, again, I was like in high school, so I was a big nerd. I wasn't out there partying like it should have been, I suppose. But for whatever reason, like just the way they made it sound, like Romulan ale, it made it seem like it was this cool thing. So I've always, and like you said, it's illegal. So I'm kind of curious about,
unless like
what
you only use it for medicinal purposes.
Oh, yes. Then that's obviously only for medicinal purposes. Clearly. Yeah. So don't confiscate it.
Bunch of nerds.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think is an important lesson you've learned or people can learn from geek culture? I know we had this on our show, but I want to have it on yours. So maybe in case any of your fans.
Yeah.
Switch over.
There's a lot of people here on this show that probably haven't heard that anniversary show. See, again, that's something I learned from Stan Lee, not directly, but from Stan Lee. That's the Marvel way. He explained it once that the way they approached comic books is every comic book is somebody's first comic book. So that's the way I've always approached every episode of the Geek Speak Show. Yeah, I have listeners, like the regulars, I call them, but every episode gets new listeners. So you always think when I consult people when they want to do podcasts or whatever, I always tell them, always think of that. I know you guys are big on followers and my this, my that. Always worry about the new people and making them stay and becoming your followers. Because if your regulars are going to be there no matter what, they're like zombies. They're like, yeah, whatever Trent says is gospel. Whatever Mark says is gospel. Whatever whoever so and so says is gospel. That's why they follow you guys. But when new people run across, here's a show that's talking about The Last of Us. Here's a show that's talking about the killer of killers. They want to know what it is, and if they're not impressed, they're not gonna come back. But if they are, they'll say, "I like this show. Yep, I'm gonna subscribe." Just because you tell them hit that subscribe button, smash that follow button, doesn't mean they will. You got to give them a reason to. So, having said all that, yes, it's okay to repeat all this because a lot of them are hearing this for the first time and they're learning about me, especially because you're asking me. So, wait, what was the question? I just forgot what you asked me.
What's an important lesson you have learned or people can learn from geek culture?
And that is timely again, because what we're going through again is never give up, never surrender. I know from Galaxy Quest, but really if you look at all geek culture stories, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, comic book, superheroes, they all have the hero's journey in some way. And we talked about this the last time we did the issues of the day. It wasn't with you guys. It was with friends of mine, filmmaker friends of mine, Scott and Gina. We said that, and they agreed that one big thing that is missing today in Hollywood movies, why it's dying, because that's what we were talking about, is because they're not inspiring anybody. they keep hammering you over the head, but everything is negative. And that's why another reason why the story we talked about a second ago, I don't like that studios are embracing this spoiler culture, because then you're not inspired. It's not a surprise. You know that this is going to happen. But whereas, like when you and I watched movies or read stories, like you mentioned with Ripley, we followed her journey, and we saw her. I was thinking as you were saying it, it's PTSD. I've never heard anybody talk about it. She's suffering with PTSD throughout all of Aliens, basically, until the end, when the thing that caused when in psychology they say you got to face your fears. That's literally what she does when the Queen is in front of her, and it's very, if you think about it, it's very cathartic. That's why she very Rambo like just keeps firing and unloads everything on the Queen. That's her getting rid of that PTSD. But again, someone like Trent just sees that, it's just an action movie from the 80s. Like, no, Trent, it's a little deeper than that. But yeah, all these stories, all these geek culture stories, comic books, whatever it is, they have that. They have the hero's journey in there, and that when we close the book, turn off the movies, the show ends, we're inspired to go out and face our fears, if you will,
to be better. Yeah,
whether it's speaking publicly, something that you don't think you can do, get that raise, get that promotion in your job, get the girl, whatever it is, we get inspired by watching Luke Skywalker or Spider-Man or whatever character we read achieve that. So we think, hey, yeah, we can do that. So that's why I say never give up, never surrender, even though it's specifically from Galaxy Quest, but it applies to all geek culture, really.
Man, that's good. Nice. Let me see. Well, this kind of, plays into that, but the last question is, you can give the audience any final thoughts or advice. What would it be? But I think that could be it right there. But if there's something else you want to say.
I think I just did.
Yeah, that was it, man. That was it. That was gold.
Yeah.
That was gold.
Yeah, it's that. And so, yeah, unless you have something else, that's a good place to end it there.
Good answers, man. That's cool. Very cool. All right. Well, that's all I got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's my show. I was waiting for you to wrap it up. We're on my show. I forgot. So yes.
Oh, man. I love it. Even the pros, everybody. Even the pros.
Yeah. No, I just got. I like it. I mean, I guess that means I'm just getting older, ready to retire. I love it when I get interviewed other places. I don't want to do too much interviewing anymore. So there's a hint of that. But yeah, there it is. There's the issues of the day for this month. I will say next month we won't do one, only because next week is our birthday. Well, the country's birthday. And then we all get ready. Most of us get ready for this little gathering in San Diego. Most of you might be there. So because of all that, a lot of people don't have time because they're getting ready for whatever presentation they're bringing to Comic-Con. So we'll skip it. Or I've been thinking about this. Maybe we'll do one at Comic-Con. I've never done that before. You guys kind of have done that when we went to Comic-Con. So maybe I'll see what happens. But well, I'll say I'll try, but no promises. Just don't hold your breath for it. Probably more likely it won't happen. But here's what will happen, actually, as we go into July. Next week is the 4th of July weekend, going into the 4th of July weekend. So either Sean Clenn and I will do a short, quick episode, since everybody's going to be traveling and going away for the holiday, 4th of July holiday, or we'll just do a replay. Then 2 weeks of regular episodes, then the countdown to Comic-Con, and then we'll all meet at Comic-Con. So that's what's coming up. It is officially summer. Everybody enjoy yourselves, and we will talk to you sometime in the next month. Just not exactly sure when, but we'll talk to you then.
Issues of the Day are standalone episodes that you'll hear once a month. Henry and Sean Clenn will return next week with an all-new episode of the Geek Speak Show, Volume 2.
The Geek Speak Show, Volume 2, is programmed by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC.